Today I'm excited about testing a new mechanical head that's just hit the market recently, and that is the Sevr Broadhead. It's a really cool head based on the original design of the Ulmer Edge. That went off the market for a while. They've improved upon it, and now it's been re-released as the Sevr Broadhead. It's got some super unique things about it. First, you can see that it's very low profile in flight, in the closed position. That means it's going to fly really well. It spins very true. And with that low profile, I have no doubt it's going to fly like a field point for me and out of my bow well after 100 yards. So it's going to be a great flying, great long distance head, I'm sure. At the same time, it's got this unique design that the blades open. They're held in place by a little O-ring you can see at the bottom there. And when they penetrate, or when they open up, the O-ring will break off or slide down the shaft. And then the arrow, the edges, the blades rather, will lock into place, and yet they'll still swivel. And what this allows it to do is, if one of the blades were to hit a bone, like a rib or something, the blades swivel, so it actually will not deflect off the bone. It won't even have to cut that bone. It'll just push the other head out of the way, and the blades kind of swivel in place like this. And that allows for very true penetration through an animal, even if one of the blades were to hit a bone. Sometimes what happens is you get a normal two-blade head that hits a bone like that, and it can really veer off track within an animal, and you don't get a pass-through, or you don't get a good pass-through. It misses the vitals. But this will do a really good job of keeping it on track by allowing that swiveling rotation. You can also take out this set screw right here, put it in there, and that'll keep the blades closed, so you can use it as a practice head. There's no reason to get a separate practice head. You can use the actual head itself as a practice head, just to make sure you have that security of it flying well. Some things that are not my favorite about it: one, it only comes at 100 grains right now, though they've talked about next year putting out 125 grains. And then two, this is all titanium ferrule here, including the tip. Titanium is not the best at resisting impact, and so I'm not sure what grade titanium this is. I couldn't find that information, but when the tip is also titanium, that's a little suspect on a hard impact shot. But we'll see. I'm going to put it through the ringer here and see what happens. I'm going to be comparing it to two of my other long-standing favorite mechanicals. First is the Killzone, the NAP Killzone, that's always done well, though it's not a great penetrating head. So I'm curious to see how the penetration of the Killzone compares to the penetration of the Sevr. And then I'm going to test it through this new G5 Deadmeat that's just done really well in the testing that I've done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be testing them through a medium that's kind of the best I've come up with at being uniform, which is super important. A medium for comparative head testing, it has to be uniform. I can't use ribs, and I can't use an animal, I can't use tissue or something like that, just because even though that's real world, it's not uniform. So because of varying bone densities and blade angles and impact angles and so forth, there really doesn't hold any comparative value. So for something to have great comparative value, you have to test it through a consistent medium. And the medium that I like to use is one that simulates animals as best as possible while still being uniform. There's probably many ways to do it, but I like to use 2 layers of carpet to simulate the hide, and then some cardboard in there just to see the cut opening before and after, see how sharp the blades are. And then I got 3/8" plywood in the middle, and then I've got a brand new side of my Reinhardt behind it, just in case it makes it through all that. So let's shoot these heads into this medium and see how they perform. So first we'll go with the Sevr, and then we'll go with the Killzone, and then the Deadmeat. So here you can see all 3 heads penetrating all these layers. You can see right there on the far left, the Sevr Broadhead, the tip just barely made it through the cardboard. The blades cut a little bit of the last layer of cardboard, and then it embedded into the Reinhardt just a little bit. You can see the Killzone behind that, to the right of that, and it looks like just the very tip made it through all the cardboard and into the Reinhardt. No blades made it through. And then you can see the Deadmeat to the right of that, and it looks like the blades as well as the tip made it into the Reinhardt. So that penetrated the best by far. Let's pull it out and see what happened. So here, as I pulled it apart, you can see all three arrows just as they were. The Sevr on the left here penetrated all the way through all the layers. The tip is sticking out, as you can see, and it got a little bit of a bulge from the blades in that back layer of cardboard, though they didn't cut through it. And then you see the Killzone right after that. The tip penetrated through, but no blades came through the cardboard. And then you see the Deadmeat did actually really well. It penetrated through all of that, and the blades stayed intact. And then you can see into the Reinhardt itself. The only one to cut with blades into the Reinhardt was the G5 right here. You can see that made a really nice hole there, and that is indeed 1.5 inches of cutting diameter. So just as advertised, great penetrating head. The Sevr, a little disappointing. The Killzone has never been a great penetrator. I was hoping the Sevr would do much better than it, but it just did a little bit better. The test I like to do is to drop each of these heads onto a hard concrete floor, just to see how these tips hold up on this. Rather than shooting them into concrete, I do that with fixed blade heads, but I don't think these mechanicals can handle it, so I'm just going to drop them like this. And let me go in order that I shot them. First, we're going to go with the Sevr. Next, we're going to go with the Killzone. And then third with the Deadmeat. Okay, let's see how they held up. Now I'm going to shoot the Sevr into this 3/8 inch plywood at an angle, just to see how well it does on angled shots. And this is going to be about a 25-degree angle or so. So I shot the Sevr into the 3/8 inch plywood at a bit of an angle, like a 25-degree angle, maybe 30-degree, and it stuck in, which is good. It penetrated, it didn't skip off. But I don't know if you could see it there. I took some still pictures so you can see it. It didn't fare so well. One of the blades completely bent all the way down, and the other blade is bent up as well. So it didn't do that great. It wasn't very durable. I'd say overall, if I'm summarizing the Sevr Broadhead from what I've tested, I'd say first of all, in terms of flight, I give it an A+. There's no question about it. This is a great flying head. In terms of penetration, I give it a C at best. It penetrated just a tad bit better than the Killzone, which I give that like about a D in terms of penetration, or C-. So I give the Sevr about a C. Now I know if it were to hit one bone with the blades, I know that would allow it to keep penetrating on course, but I didn't do that in a test here. Just in terms of a straight uniform medium, it did about a C at best. In terms of durability, it did okay in the drop test on the concrete, though the tip curled. But then the other tips of the Killzone actually didn't curl at all. It had a little tiny mark. The Deadmeat had a little bit of a mark as well, but the Sevr bent the most in those tests, the tip. I don't know if it came out in the pictures, but it was pretty apparent. And then in terms of overall durability of the blades and so forth into the wood the first time, and then the second time, I give it a C in terms of durability. So a really good overall head. I would have no problems using it on whitetail, or especially on pronghorn, on a really long shot like that, on smaller hogs, and I'm sure it can do well on pretty much anything, if you get a good enough shot on it. I have no doubt, and I know these tests are a little bit maybe more stringent than animal tissue would be in some ways, but I just think there's a lot more durable mechanical heads on the market that I've tested. So overall, I'd give it maybe a B-. If I factor in the accuracy and the durability, I give it a B-.